get this thing going. One more again, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Speak Your Truth with Mark Ross podcast. I am your host, Mark Ross, and with me this morning is Mr. Simon Morrell. Simon, you are from the UK, and you
Yes,
are an author.
Yes,
You
sir.
are also a martial arts expert.
For my sins, yes, yes, yes. So I've
And
been told.
yeah, and you are the author of the book From Bullying to Black Belt.
From bully to black belt, yeah.
Yes. Brother Simon, welcome to the show. Welcome
Thank
to
you.
the
Thank you for
show.
having me, Mark.
All right, all right. As we were talking before we went live, I brought up the fact that your story had a sad beginning,
Yeah.
but it has a very positive and fruitful ending. And
Yes, sir. Yes.
your ending is just you're not even there yet.
No, I'm not,
You're
I'm
not
not
even
even
there yet.
there yet.
Let's just put it in perspective. You're not there
Yes,
yet.
yes. Yeah, I like that. I like
So
that.
so
We haven't finished yet.
no, your ending is still being written.
Yes. Yeah, I like that. Very
It is.
much so.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So uh let's go back.
Okay.
You when we had our initial conversation, you mentioned about having a rough childhood and being bullied, not not just the bullying, Simon, but you had to endure a very rough household.
Very much so. Yeah,
Yeah.
very much so. Yeah, yeah.
So take us back, if you will, and share with us what life was like growing up in the UK for you.
Yeah, well, we were brought up in a small seaside town in Wales, and it was the late 60s, early 70s. We were one of the first English people to move into Wales, so we were somewhat of a rarity. I was how do you pronounce it, archetypical bullying victim. I spoke funny, I had goofy teeth, I was skinny, I had no confidence whatsoever, yeah.
Yeah.
So, the bullies loved me. So from a very, very early age, it started off just childish stuff, getting clipped around the head and name called, etc., etc. But it progressed into my early teens and into my adulthood. It became violent assaults. But running alongside that I had a very non-sexually, but a very abusive father, very controlling, very toxic. Um, and I listened again. It's we said this before, Mark. This isn't a pity party. I'm just saying it as it was. I knew from a very early age, and I found out later on why that I was the black sheep of the family, and I kind of quickly adapted to that. I knew my role in the family dynamic. So I would get beaten up in school, or spat at in school, or
Mm,
this, that, and the other, and you'd go home and there'd be no support from your father. It'd be
mm.
like, pull your socks up, be a man. You're letting the side down. So I stumbled through like what we call primary school. Not sure what it is in America, but primary school is 6 to 11 year olds. Then high
Elementary
school,
school, yeah. Grade
elementary
school.
school,
Yeah, yeah.
elementary school. So then high school was just another awful playground for me. There were good, there were good people who looked out for me, but as a rule, it was, I was a very, very shy kid. Didn't like it at all. It started coming to a head. It got worse. It really messed with my mental health when I'd had a few beatings, never stood up for myself. And the guy latched onto me. He was a skinhead, and I was probably 15 at the time. And I'd gone out with his girlfriend. I didn't even kiss her, Mark. You know what I mean? I was a 15 shy-year-old kid. I went out for 2 weeks. It was no Romeo and Juliet, but he latched onto me, and he was a dangerous character. And he'd been, don't hold this against anyone, but he'd been arrested. He was violent. He'd been in court. So he would, I guess nowadays, I think they'd call it stalking. He stalked me
Mm,
for 6 months, right?
mm, hmm.
And between bouncing off him, you'd go home and you'd forget him to take the garbage out, the bins out. So my dad would belt me around the head, and I'm like a pinball machine. And
Yeah.
I remember my father quite distinctly telling me I'd forgotten a chore. And he said, "You're a rubbish son." He said, "I don't like you very much, so you must be a rubbish son because your father doesn't like you." And I got no support from my mum, and my siblings, weren't really interested. So I'm bouncing between this madman in school and my father. And my father employed people in the town. He had a factory and he employed 30 people. So at will or at whim, if he didn't like someone or he'd had a drink in a pub or he'd sack someone. So next thing I'm going to school, and someone who my dad had fired from the job would go, "Oh, you're Peter Morrell's son. Your dad fired my mum, or fired my dad or my brother." And bang, there's another punch. So I'm 15, 16 now, and you just don't know where to turn to next. So it kind of the guy the skinhead Jimmy knocked at my door one night, and he said to me, "Come outside." He said, "I'm going to batter you." And do you know what, Mark? I was that weak. I almost went, and his friend was behind him, going, "Simon, don't. He's going to give you the hiding." So I used my dad because my dad was a name in the town. I used him as my card. Yeah. I said, "Listen, Jimmy." I said, "My father's inside. You know who my father is. You know what he's capable of." And Mark had chilled me. He said to me, "Go and get your father, and I'll batter him as well." So that's when my kind of
Mm.
agoraphobia. A week later, he came at me with a knife. I was in the local high street, minding my own business, and I heard him shout me, and he jumped out in this alleyway. And long before knife crime was the terrible prevalent thing it is in our communities at the moment, we called it legging. Yeah, he ran at me with a knife, and I didn't know I could run that fast, Mark. I was like an Olympian taking off up the road, right? And I got away from him, and then it's funny. It messed with my mind. It stopped almost as quickly as it started. He just lost interest in me, but not before he said to my father, "When your son is 18, I'm going to hunt him down. I'm going to kill him." And I was only 16 by this time, and I'd never seen my father take a backward step before. It was at a local football match, and my father took a backward step. And I thought, if my dad's afraid of this guy, there's something to be afraid of. So I go home that night. I'm expecting my dad to give me a pep talk and let's get you into boxing, let's get you into karate, let's get you into this, that, and the other. I just got a roasting for it. You
Mm.
coward. What's the matter
Mm.
if you stand up for yourself? And I said, I don't know how to. So around about this time, I started to develop panic attacks, and I didn't
Mm.
want to leave my house. And I'd wake up in fear. I'd go to bed in fear. Fear was my companion in life. Um, but I met a young girl outside my dad. My dad owned a fairground, and I met a young girl, and we became good buddies. And she was a real mate to me, yeah, a real friend. And like I said, Jimmy had left me alone, but the mold was set. I was a victim, simple as that, yeah. And like I say, it's not a pity party.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
this young girl, she agreed to be my girlfriend for a bit, and she says, "I'll give you a week as your girlfriend, see how we get on." And that was 40 years ago, and we're still married to this day. Um, so she said to me, at the age of 16, I got into karate, and the karate instructor was my brother-in-law, and I had a stupid argument with my sister, and the karate guy was a second dan black belt, 12, 13 stone, and I'm a yellow belt, and I'm 8 stone if I'm wet, yeah?
Yeah.
So I had a stupid argument with my sister, and he battered me, and I thought, you were just as bad as everybody else. And Mark, I don't mean like, don't be cheeky to your sister. I mean, bang, 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 on the floor, kicking me. So I thought, well, if that's karate, if that's what that does for you, you can keep it. So buddied
But
up at,
but
sorry,
Simon, I have a question.
yeah,
How, you went through all this. You're catching hell in the house.
yeah,
You're catching hell outside the house.
yeah,
What type of effect did that have on you mentally?
terrible, terrible. I was a nervous wreck. Couldn't make friends. My panic attacks were through the roof. I would sit in, that was before people knew what panic attacks were. And my mum now and again would try and help, but I'd sit in my room shaking. My my weekends and my evenings were sat reading Stephen King and listening to soundtracks to The Wanderers and Midnight Express, and because I didn't go out the house, simple as that. And if I did go out the house, I was on constant alert. You'd walk down a local high street because you had to go to wherever, my dad's factory or my dad's fairground, and you'd just be watching out for people to give you a beating. Again, I bought a coat one day, a leather jacket, right? I was dead made up with this leather jacket. I was only 16, paid 40 quid for it. And these three lads come around the corner. They said, "Don't like your jacket." What kind of state of a jacket? And they beat me up for the colour of my jacket. I mean, beat me up, right? So I just had no confidence, nothing at all. No, but I met this crazy girl, Julie, and like I say, we buddied up, and I took her for a drink, yeah, and then we went for another drink, and then another drink, and then I said, listen, I said, I kind of like you a little bit, and she went, the cheek of you like me a little bit. So I said, I'm moving away from this town. I was perhaps 18 by now. I said, 18, 19. I said, I've got to get out of this town. And you know, you shouldn't say it because a lot of people in the town were lovely, but I saw it as a town from a Stephen King book. That's how I viewed it. The town was called Prestatyn. And I thought, this town is like something from a Stephen King book. It's like Derry. And I said, I've got to go. So
Wow.
Julie starts crying, right? We're in a
Wow.
bar. And she said, you're leaving. And she starts crying. And I went, yeah. And she went, what am I going to do? And I said, well, I thought you were coming with me. So she went, oh, we're moving in together. And I said, yeah. So we moved in together. But my agoraphobia by this time, Mark, I could put a face in it by now. I could buff it when I needed to. But a lot of my days when I worked in my father's factory, I was on antidepressants. I was full of fear. So eventually, when we moved in together, I became really agoraphobic. I couldn't leave the house. So my daytimes, full disclosure, were drinking a can of beer, drinking a can of Budweiser, favorite American beer, and watching daytime telly. So Julie came in one day and said, I'm not cross with you, Simon, don't think that. She said, but you have to do something. She said, you're letting people walk all over you. So I'm not, maybe Mark 19 by now, 20. So she said, go into martial arts. She said, and do karate again. And I said, I can't. She said, you can. So I went to meet this instructor and I said, I lied to him. I said, listen, I've got an iron deficiency, so I have to stand by a door in case I need to leave. And you know what, Mark? He said to me, you're in fight or flight, aren't you, Simon? And I said, yeah. He said, don't worry about it. He said, stand by the door if that makes you feel comfortable. And that
Yeah.
makes such a difference to me, yeah?
Yeah.
So I thought, I'll do 6 months. I'll get 2 belts in martial arts and I'll be all right. And that was 40 odd years ago and I'm still doing it now. Because I found my thing. I couldn't sing, I couldn't kick a ball. Like I say, but people went, and I hate this because it sounds big-headed, but people say, you're good at this. And I was
Mm.
like, you're good at this, right? So I started making a name for myself in martial arts. And Julie and I were good. And all of a sudden I'm thinking, do you know what? I'm not agoraphobic anymore. I'm having panic attacks, I'm anxious, but I'm not agoraphobic, right? I'm going out. There's a
Mhm.
hill by us, a hill called Real Hill. And I used to think there were witches over the hill. Don't go over the hill because there's witches there, right? There weren't
Why?
any witches there.
Oh,
Why?
yeah, yeah,
My mind, my mind, yeah. I couldn't, for a period of time, right? Um,
yeah.
there's witches over Real Hill, and people went, oh, this lad's balmy.
Yeah.
So I couldn't, for a period of time, I didn't go a long period of time, I didn't go 7 mile outside the radius of our house until I started training. And every time I went training, they'd go to this club, which is 10 mile away. And I'm going, you crazy, 10 mile? Go to this club, it's 20 mile away. Go and fight in Manchester, which is 40, 50 mile away. So I went over the hill. There were no blooming witches there. It was just a hill, right? So then, do you know, people started noticing me. And the funny thing is, I was put in for my black belt. And I'm like, wow, it takes you 4 years to get a black belt. I think it took me about 10. And I'm confident and I'm buzzing. And there's a guy called Jeff Thompson, a British writer. He won a BAFTA. He was a New York Times bestseller, and he wrote about 40 books on fear. And Mark, I got him right. I read everything he wrote, and he was my hero. Yeah, and I know some Americans don't like Springsteen, but we love Springsteen, right? He was my Springsteen. If you're a musician, he was just Springsteen. If you're a Liverpool fan, he was just a hero to me. So 6 months for my black belt, and I got this, rolling my shoulders a bit, I'm all
Yeah,
right.
yeah, yeah.
Massive panic attack. I went downhill in an afternoon. I went downhill in an afternoon, and I'd been for a run, and I came home, and I said to Julie, we had a little girl by now, and I said, who am I kidding to be a black belt? And she said, don't you dare say that. She said, that's your father talking. Because my father hated karate, hated kickboxing, because
But
he
it
couldn't.
seemed like your dad hated. Well, you said that he didn't like you at all.
Yeah, yeah,
Mhm.
I'm all right. That I reconcile that 20 years
Yeah,
ago now.
yeah.
But
Let me ask you this question, Simon.
certainly,
Uh, uh, when you started getting into martial arts, did you ever confront your bully?
wow. Yeah, yeah. I'll skip forward a little bit,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. You jumped the gun
Pe-
on me, brother.
People kind of people left me alone, right? And I'm not a
Uh,
braggart and I don't really swag on my shoulders, but people went, he's always winning fights, he's always winning tournaments, he's leave him alone. But the bully, yeah, I had
mhm.
my second black belt and I hadn't seen him for 10, 12, 13 years. And I was out one day delivering goods on a Saturday morning, and I knocked on the door, and he opened the door. Remember the film Cape Fear with Robert De Niro, Max
Yes,
Caddy? He
yeah.
was like Max Caddy. He had that demeanor, he had that stature. And I was the second dan. I had fought full contact. I had fought European champions and won. And he opened the door, and I went, oh my God. And I'm like, I'm 14 years of age again. And I
Mm.
thought, no. And I gave my head a wobble. And I said, no, I'm not. I'm not
Yeah,
doing this. So I
yeah.
said, his name was Jimmy. I said, Jimmy, I've got an order for you. And you know what, Mark? He said to me, Simon. And I said, yeah. He said, I believe I was terrible to you when we were younger. I said, you were awful. I said, you absolutely broke me. And he said,
Mm.
I'm so sorry. He said, I was a heroin user. And I said, whoa. And he said, I'm really sorry, Simon. And you know what? He said, will you accept my apology? And it was over. It was a 20-minute conversation.
Sure.
And I said, yeah. And we
Yeah,
shook hands. And he said, I'll help you unload the van. And we unloaded the van together. And we had a cup of tea and he brought some biscuits out. And he was all right, yeah. And we
yeah.
gave each other a hug. And I liked him. 2 weeks later, he took his own life. Yeah. And I'm not saying it was that conversation at all. I don't, for whatever reason. But he took his own life and he had two young children and a wife. And people said to me, got your own back. And I said, do you think that's getting your own back? I said, that is horrific what that
That's
boy
horrific.
has just
Absolutely.
done. Yeah, and I couldn't, I forgave him and that was it. Who am I to forgive
Yeah.
anyone? But,
Yeah.
so yeah. Some of the people who I
Wow.
bullied, I became friends with. And one guy in particular, he's an ex-military guy, and we're still friends to this day. And he never knew he bullied me. He saw it as banter. And I said, but I don't want to mention his name on air, right?
Sure, sure. Yeah,
'Cause
yeah,
if he's listening, he knows who he is. But he's a good
yeah.
friend of mine, yeah. And I said, you put my head in a window and shut the window and smashed it. How
Get
was that?
out.
Right? And he went, I didn't even realize. But
Oh,
if it,
God.
so yeah, the bullies kind of the thing is when I started doing well, my dad couldn't control me, and if I can go back to my panic attack for the black belts, I wasn't going to do my black belt. And Judy said to me, read the books that Jeff Thompson wrote. And I said, they can't help me. Like I say, Jeff Thompson is a hero for mine. So she said, you don't mean that. And I said, no. I said, the man doesn't know what he's talking about. So I resigned from a black belt. I took myself out my black belt test. And she said, you know you're going to be stuck in your father's factory for the rest of your life unless you do this black belt. And I said, so be it. And
Mm.
she said, that's not you. That isn't you. She said, I can see past that. So Saturday morning, a week later, our telephone goes and Julie jumps out of bed. And it's not voicemail, it's a proper answer phone because I'm that old. And we hear the voice go, hello, Simon. Hello, Julie. So Julie went, I'll get it. And I said, who's this, Julie? Who? So she said to me, don't be cross. She said, it's Jeff Thompson. And Mark, it really is like, for me, it's Bruce Springsteen phoning you up. Or, your music hero. And I thought it was somebody joking with me. And I said, this is a real cruel trick to play. And he
Mm.
said, no, he said, Simon, he said, I've heard your story. So I said, how have you heard my story? And he said, how do you think I've heard your story? He said, your wife wrote to me and she'd written him a letter. All right. And this man was, as I say, his films are everywhere. Orlando Bloom was in his film. And he spoke to me for an hour, yeah. And he said, this black belt means so much to you. He said, it's going to change your life. And I was crying, right? And I'm not going to be embarrassed about that.
Yeah,
And he
yeah,
said
yeah.
to me, he said, I'm your friend, Simon. He said, I can see so much of him in me. So I become good friends, and he'd phone me up and have a chat. And I'm like, this is crazy. You know, where are the kids spitting at me? Where are the kids? And next thing, I'm going down. Coventry's 3 hours from here. I'm going down to Coventry to fight on it in his club. I'm going to, so I got my black belt. And then he said to me, right, he said, I want you to write down the story. He said to me, can you write? And I said, no. And Julie said, yeah, you can. Because the only thing I was good at in school was writing. And I got accepted into college. And my father said, no, Fico, you don't go to college. You work in my factory. Fico, right? I'm not going to
What does
glorify
that
what I
mean?
said, but
What does that mean, fickle? What does that mean?
Fico, you're Fico, you're
Oh,
an
fickle,
idiot.
fickle. Yeah, yeah,
Fico,
fickle.
yeah? You're an idiot. You're a clown. You got no
Yeah, yeah,
brains,
yeah,
yeah? You're
yeah.
thick as pig muck, right? That's what you said to me. You're thick as pig muck. So I wrote this article, right? And I wrote, and I sent it to Jeff, and I thought, this is nonsense. And he phoned me up the next day and he said, Simon, you're a writer. And I started laughing. He said, stop putting yourself down. He said,
Man,
you're a writer. And it was a 6-page article in a national magazine. So he said, you want to write a book? And I started laughing. He went, don't do that. He said, don't buy into your dad, right? So things kind of became a bit, I wrote, can I, from bullied to black belt, right? And it sold throughout the world, and it was on the BBC, the New York Post, and it got scripted into a feature film. And we're talking to film companies now to get it made. And I spoke all over the world about it, and it's crazy, you know. And
yeah,
it's all
yeah.
because I'm going to point. It's all because of that daft girl in the other room looking after me
Now,
dogs.
now, I was going to ask you, I was going to have you talk about her because I know
Yeah.
it touched me when you brought it up. But I'm going to ask you about your wife. But first, I have a comment from the chat, and I want you to hear this. This comment is
Okay.
directed to you, Simon.
Okay.
It says, "That's powerful, Simon. Your story. You're a strong man. Forgiveness takes much strength and courage."
Wow. Whoever wrote that, thank you very much. Thank you. I really appreciate that. That means
He heard
all the
you,
way from America. That's a
my
lovely
man.
thing to write. Thank you. Whoever wrote that, I really appreciate it. I
Yes,
mean
sir.
that. I mean that. I've had some, I've had some good guiding people. People who've guided me, my wife, my friends, my
Your
Jeff
wife.
Thompson.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and so I think I've got that where I can, whatever that person just said about me, I think I got that from them. You
Hmm.
know, Jeff taught me to be, I've always been a gentle person, a bit too gentle, I think. And I've always been, I think I've got empathy for people. So it was quite easy, not quite easy. It wasn't a stretch to do that. That's a really nice thing for whoever wrote that. Thank you very much. I appreciate
Yeah.
it. God
You have a
bless you.
kind spirit. That's all that
Every
is.
kind. That's a lovely thing to
Very kind
say.
spirit. Yeah. Yeah.
That's a lovely thing. Thank you very much. Thank
And,
you.
and speaking of kind spirits, talk about your wife.
No, let's talk about me some more. No,
Right,
no, spotlight on me. She's brilliant.
right. Okay,
She-
okay.
She's brilliant. She's brilliant. She was my friend when we were, I think I was 16 and she was 14. We were buddies. And then we knocked about together. And then she moved away and we met up again. And I kept asking her out and she kept saying no. And if there's one thing I've got, it's perseverance. But she's just beautiful, inside and out. She's just a lovely. We've got 3 kids, and our children adore her. Our gym is called Fight Fortress. We've got our own gym, and the people at Fight Fortress, they just she's just brilliant, and she's a queen of Fight Fortress. And I have never in my life ever heard anybody say a bad word. Say what you want about me. I've never heard anybody say a bad word about Julie because there's nothing to say. She comes from a good family. Her mum treated me. Her mum used to call me a golden child, right? Because her mum was Julie gets it from her mum. They were just a brilliant family. So every time I fell, again, excuse me for, there's a Bruce Springsteen song called "If I Should Fall Behind, Wait for Me," and that's Julie. Every
Mm,
time I fall behind, she waits for me and she picks me up. We were, not that it matters, at one time
mm, mm, mm.
we did very well in business, and we had money, and we had a couple of houses, and we were, and it was all right. And my stupid fault, I lost a lot. I lost a lot, right? Our houses, our cars,
All of it.
everything, all of it,
Mm.
all of it. And she went, never mind, we go again. And even my father said that girl does not say a bad word, have a bad word to say about him. And Julie said, why would I have a bad word to say? She never once pointed her finger at me. She never once said, you drank too much, because I drank too much. You know, full disclosure. I was in hospital with drinking too much. Never ever. She told me off. You know, she said, that's enough. You know, you can't, walk over, Julie. Um, but no, she never judged me. Um, she, like I say, she looks after me in Fight Fortress. She's just brilliant. I can't speak highly enough of her. And I'm glad I'm glad I ignored the 4 court orders that she got against me to stop me harassing her to go out with me. She just, we had some trouble once with some local guys. I don't look for trouble, market, but sometimes because of your nature, you attract it. And they were drug dealers, and they came to my house to deal with me, and 6 or 7 of them. And I thought we had children in the house, and I thought I can't let them in the house, so I have to go and confront them. And she came out with me. Who does that? Who comes out with their husband and faces 7 drug dealers? Now I thought they were afraid of me, right? What I didn't realise was she stood behind me with a big dog and a baseball bat. But
Hmm.
no, she is loyal, she is strong, she is honest. So for every time I have messed up, and there have been many, she's put me on the right path. You know, she's just a wonderful, wonderful person. Julie Morrell. We've been together for 40 odd years now. We've had 10 dogs between us, 3 children. The children just adore her. So I'll give you an example, right?
Yeah, go ahead.
The other day we were sitting outside. Whenever the kids want something, they phone their mum, right? So we're sitting outside in the garden a couple of Saturdays ago. Nice little glass of wine with the dogs. And my phone goes, and it's one of our kids. And I went, oh, one of the kids has phoned me. So I went, my daughter's called Luca. So I went, hello, Lou, you okay? And she went, yeah, put mum on. I said, why are you using my phone? She said, mum's phone's off, put mum on, I want to speak to mum. I thought, you can speak to me, And I said, what's the matter? She said, there's something wrong with my car. I said, well, I can help you. She said, Dad, just put mum on. And mum sorts the car out, right? Just brilliant. Just, she's a lovely
Wow.
person.
Yeah, yeah. And now you did tell me that um there was a time that you questioned your efforts in getting, deeper into the martial arts aspect of things. Uh, what what made you doubt yourself?
That panic attack I had, it was you know, it was my dad. Yeah, I got to quite high level in martial arts, not black belt, but quite high level. I was boxing, I was kickboxing, I was wrestling, and I was getting accolades. But in my mind, I just kept hearing my dad when I was a kid going, "You're thick as pig muck, you're skinny, you can't kick a ball straight." So you think it's in you, right? And no matter what anybody said to me, I couldn't get it out. I couldn't, except when Julie phoned Jeff Thompson. Who does that? Who has the courage to phone someone's hero and get that man to phone? So that him and Julie sat me down and they spoke to me and they said, I don't like this, Mark. It's big headed. You're good at this. I ended up getting 8 black belts. I ended up teaching all over the country and getting 3 times Hall of Fame. And I'm not, that wasn't me. I shouldn't be doing that. But they said, you should be doing that. So the doubt came from my father. But the funny thing is, Mark, when I got good at it, he then saw me of worth. Yeah. And if he upset anyone or he owed anyone money or people came knocking at his door looking for him, it was go and get Simon. Simon can do a bit. Simon can sort him out. And in the end, it was Julie who said, "Stop fighting your dad's battles for you. Remember what he did to you when you were young." So I became of worth when I could fight. And at the age of 40, I realised after I'd been in hospital drinking, I didn't need him. It took me till I was 40 to realise I don't need my father. I've got this beautiful girl and I've got these beautiful children. I've got me crazy dogs. I've got me gym. I've got my books. I've got my hero is my friend. He texted me the other day. Don't need my dad. So unfortunately, when I said to him I don't need you anymore, it was vile. The letters I got sent and the abuse I got and the to this day he died I think 3 years ago. And to this day, nobody's told me he died. I found out on social media. And I go, here's what it is. Yeah, here's what it is. Found out on social media. My siblings didn't tell me. Nobody told me. And Julie said to me, are you okay? And I said, yeah. She said, are you sad? And I said, I'm sad I didn't have a better dad, but I
Mm.
certainly had um, things in my life that made up for that.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I'm not glad he's dead. I don't mean that.
Yeah.
But I'm sad that I didn't have a better father.
Right.
But I also think this, Mark, yeah, had I have had a better father, would I have gone as far as I'd gone in what I do? Yeah, does that make sense?
It makes, yeah.
Yeah.
I felt
Would,
that.
would I would I
Felt
have
that.
would I have just been in his factory, which is nothing wrong with that,
I
or
felt
would
that.
I? Because people said you went from that to that, and that's for other people to say. But if I'd have had the pats on the back all the while and the you're a great kid, would I have done that? I don't know. I don't think I would have.
Simon, you got me thinking what we went through is meant for us to go through.
Yes.
Because like you said, brother, if you if you didn't go through that,
Yeah.
how would your life wouldn't be where it is.
No. No. I Mark, I agree with you completely. I once, we were going through a rocky time, and I phoned Jeff and I said, "When does it end, Jeff?" I said, "From as long as I can remember, as early as I can remember, to now, it is just turmoil." And he said the Bob Dylan song, "The answer is blown in the wind." He said, "When it happens, it'll happen." It's happening. We're talking to film people, and so would I have? I don't, I wouldn't. I don't think I'd have done. So yeah, what we go through is what we're meant to go through, and I think that's God's will. That
Mm.
that's what I believe.
Talk about your book.
My book, Joe. Truthfully, right, I read it the other day, and it's. I think I've progressed about. I've become a better writer. I wrote a sequel, An Everyday Warrior, about the money that the things that my dad owed people and how I had to step up for him and my drinking problem, what have you. So the first book, when I read it now, From Bully to Black Belt, it's quite raw. Yeah, and I understand that, and it's not, And I said to someone, I said to a publisher, should I change them? Should I change it? And he said, absolutely not. They said, raw is what you want, is what people want to see. So it plots me. It starts off in the playground, and I'm 5, and the guy spits in my face, and he called me a spaz. And it goes on through my agoraphobia,
Mm.
and it goes on through meeting the daft blonde girl next door, and it goes on through the friends that I made and I lost. It talks in depth about Jimmy, the guy who gave me a hard time. I talk about his apology because his apology meant a lot to me. And then it goes to when the massive phone call that changed my life with Jeff Thompson. So I go in that. And it was Jeff said it very cathartic to write. And sometimes I loved writing it, and sometimes I didn't because there's some stuff in there that you don't want to go through, you don't want to relive, but you have to because people want to hear it. So you can't just say to people, "Oh, my life is this," right? They have to hear. I hope this doesn't sound cheesy. They have to hear you can have bad times and come out on top of it, which is really what From Bully to Black Belt is. The clue is in the title, From Bully to Black Belt, and you go from through. It culminates in me getting my black belt, and it's it goes from there, and what I did then, and the people I met, and I say this, the people. I was sitting one day in this guy's house, yeah, and
Yeah.
he's a British martial artist, so they probably. I was sitting with giants, kickboxing champions, Russian wrestling champions, bodyguards, authors, and I'm sitting at the table and I'm having a meal with them, and I'm looking at Julie. Sorry, I caught Julie's eye, and she looked at me and she went, "Don't you dare! Don't you think you don't deserve to sit here?" And you think, how can you sit with these people? But you know what, Mark? They're just ordinary guys like you and I. You know what I mean? I think they're giants, and they are giants. And I'm sitting in their house having having meals with them, and they're phoning me and chatting to me, and they're just like me and you, and they have the good days and they have the bad days. But the thing is, no matter this, is what they taught me: resilience. No matter how bad the days get, you get up, then you fight the next day, and eventually it becomes good. And I think that's where I'm getting.
Yeah.
That's where I'm getting.
I have two more comments here on the chat that I want to read to you. One is directed to your wife. This one is hearing you speak about your wife is beautiful. Every time you fall down, she waits for you. That's
Yeah.
amazing. You're a rich man, Simon.
I,
How a man speaks about his wife says a lot about him.
oh, that's thank you, but that's
And here's the other one. Those experiences season your life to help you enjoy the taste of the finer things you enjoy now, friend.
that's a lovely thing for them to write.
And that's and that's what I was going back into our conversation about going through the storm.
Yeah,
You and I understand as I get older, the things that we would experience and went through were meant for us to experience
yeah,
because
yeah,
it gives us the ability to appreciate life and
yeah,
appreciate who we are and embrace who we are as human
yes.
beings. And it gives us the ability to give back.
100%, Mark. That was absolutely spot on. When you're in the storm, though, you don't see it, do you? You
No,
don't
you
see,
don't.
you
You don't.
can't see the other side of it.
Not
And
at all.
people around you can.
Yeah.
And people say, this is going to happen. And all you can see is the storm.
That's it.
And when you walk out of it and you look around and you go, well, this is a nice sunny day.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm enjoying this. I'm liking
Yeah.
this at the moment, you
Yeah.
know. So yeah, we are meant to go through that so we can feel like this. That right?
That's right. That's right, brother Simon. You
Thank
have
you.
any new projects coming out in the near future, or you're just doing?
Yeah, I'm working. When I told Julie, she went, "No, I'm working on a book about my dad, and it's
Oh,
called Our Factory, Our Father." Yeah, and it's it's his story really. When I we have date day, Julie and I, on a Friday. And not that long ago, we were sitting there, and like I say, I'm very careful with my drink now. I have a glass of wine, I'm having a meal, and we're sitting there and we're chatting away. And she said, "When did you first see your dad?" And I knew what she meant. And I said, "When I was 6." And she said, "Well, how did you see him?" And I said, "A man came to our house, a massive man, a debt collector, looking for my dad and looking for money. And my dad put me in the way, right? Oh, my son, look, my son sitting on my knee." And this man, this gangster, looked at me and he rubbed my head and he went to me dad, "We'll see you another time, Peter." His name Peter. And he said he rubbed my head and he went, "Enjoy your cartoons, son." And at 6, Mark, I remember thinking, something happened here that wasn't right.
mm, mm,
Yeah.
mm-hmm.
And Julie went, "I get that." And I remember, and again, it's not a pity party. One of my friend's dads went back to his house one day for a drink after they'd been to a club. And my friend's dad said to him, "Why are the pictures of all your other children, but not Simon?" He said, "Because I hate him." He said, "He's the reason I went to prison." I was 6 months old when he went to prison.
What?
I was 6 months old when he went to prison. I don't hold that against him, but and that's what he said. And the guy was a kind of a buddy of mine on the side. He looked after me, this guy, and he went, "Listen," he said, "just be a bit." So I started accumulating data, for want of another word. Yeah, I'll tell you my first memory. And I told Julie, and she went, "That is." I was, I know I was 3 years of old, 3 years of age, because we still lived in Birkenhead in England. Yeah. So we moved when I was 4, so I had to be 3. And I'm sitting there one afternoon and my dad's asleep on us at tea. I don't know what if he was drunk or what he'd done, right? And we had a big carving of a wooden carving of an elephant on her calf, and it was a 3D carving. And I'm playing cars, Thunderbirds or Go, right? And my mum walks in and she picks us off the wall, and she went bang and smashed it over my dad's head, and the blood all over it. And that stayed at me. I was 3, and that stayed at
Your
me. And
mom
one of
did
my
that to your dad?
my mum did that to my dad, yeah. and I don't know why. And I can see it now. I could tell you the house is Bebington Close, an area of Birkenhead. And so that travelled, and then I saw uh, the debt collector I was just telling you about. And then I saw some of the stuff that went on in his factory and how he treated people. And do you know what, Mark? He could have been a multi-millionaire. He was not a stupid man. He was just an arrogant man.
Mm.
And he would do deals with people and rip them off, right? Steal from them. And I would say, why are you doing that, Dad? This is a good thing for our business. No, 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 stuff them. I'm keeping them. And he'd rob from people. He did business with Warner Brothers, Kraft General Foods, um, major football clubs, Premier League football clubs, stuntmen. He did business all over the world, and he couldn't help but steal from people. So a couple of years ago, I'm thinking, do you know what? If I write a book about him, I might be able to make a few pound. So I'm writing Our Factory, Our Father. And Julie read it and she went, yeah, it's not about me, it's about him.
Right.
And on my word, right? It's not done out of malice. It's done out of, I want to write this book. Yeah. And I know that my children towards the end, he's not our granddad because they saw what he did to me, to their dad. So I said to my children, before I write this book, this is what I'm doing. And they went, good with us. Yeah. So I know that eventually my children will read Our Factory, Our Father, and how he ruled our small town with an iron fist, and how he was a bully and an adulteress and a thief and a, yeah. So it's not born out of malice. But why would I be malicious now? Yeah. I'm
Yeah.
just writing it because I feel it needs writing and because I want to write it,
Yeah.
and I think it'll be a good story for people. And every
Absolutely.
word in that book is true.
Absolutely.
So that's, and we're also working on the film project, Being Bullied, which is the film version of From Bullied to Black Belt. So
Okay.
we have a co-producer, so we're hoping we get another film company who'll come in and work alongside of us for that. And get us to Hollywood and I can come and see you. We go and have a beer together in Milwaukee.
Hey man, let me know when, brother.
So that is what we've got planned for the future. The film Being Bullied and Our Factory, Our Father.
Oh, awesome.
And
Awesome.
it it looks rosy if you don't mind me saying.
Your future does look rosy. And,
I hope so.
and I'm here for it. I'm here for it.
Thank you, Mark. I appreciate it very much.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. If you had an encouraging message for anyone that endured or is enduring bullying, Simon, what would that message be for them?
That's, it's on the wall of our gym. Where there is courage, there is hope. Yeah, where there is courage, there is hope. I honestly believe no matter how frightened we are, no matter how scared we are, no matter how down we are, every person has even if it's only an ounce of courage in them. Yeah, and you've got to, no matter how frightened, you've got to expand that courage. And people say to me, because they know about our background, I'm going to come to your gym and get confidence. And I said, you'd be more than welcome because we do fear control. But I'm going to come and have more confidence. And I said, you won't get confidence sitting at home watching daytime television, right? So I say, listen, said, pluck up all your courage. Yeah, you're in good hands. We've got some great people at our gym. Pluck up all your courage. I understand how scary it is to walk into a gym. So I can also understand how scary it is to do whatever other people want to do. So I say to people, I honestly believe that every single person, no matter how minuscule, has a bit of courage. So where there is courage, there is hope. If you've got courage, you have hope. And with hope, you can do anything. And that's what I try and tell people.
Hmm. Awesome. How can people contact you, Simon?
They can go on the website, www.simonmorell.com. They can email me, info@simonmorell.com. Or we're on all the socials. Do
Okay.
you know what the thing is, Mark? Right, we do a lot on socials now. I couldn't talk to people at one time. You can't shut me up now. My wife goes, take a breath, will you? And I go, nah, I'm going on TikTok, I'm going on social media, leave me alone. So that's how, and listen, and I mean this quite sincerely. We had somebody get in touch with me today who's got agoraphobia and asked for help. If I can help anyone out there, I most certainly will do, because I had so many good people, including yourself, Mark, getting me on this show today, right? I had so many great people help me that, you have to give back. That's how this whole thing works, yeah?
Yes, it does. Yes, it does.
Yes, it
Yes,
does.
it does. You got to pay it forward, brother. Pay it
Pay it
forward.
forward. Pay it forward. Yeah. So if anybody needs my help, on my website, TikTok, Facebook, I'll do whatever I can for people because it was done for me.
All right.
That's what my wife does every night when I go to sleep. Once I'm asleep, she goes, "Oh, thank goodness that's over with."
No, 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 no.
No, I'm messing. I'm messing, honestly.
Yeah, this, I knew that this was going to be an interesting interview, but I didn't know how in depth this interview was going to be. And you've blown my understanding.
Thank you.
You've given me a different lens on how to look at life.
Thank you. Thank you. I hope I've helped. It's been great talking to you. Been a lot of
Yeah,
time for you, Mark, and I
yeah.
appreciate it. And I hope what I said made sense. If I went off path now and
No,
again, and no,
no,
okay,
not at
all
all.
right,
What happened here today was meant to happen.
all right.
You did,
Thank
and
you.
I can't thank you enough for uh, being open and vulnerable to share your story in the way that you did. I was looking at you at some point. I'm like, is he gonna break on me and get emotional?
I've done that before now. I've started trying to get interviewed and I go, oh no, I'm supposed to be this tough black belt right now,
Yeah,
blubbering like a
yeah.
baby. No, I learned to rein it in.
I was
But
like,
yeah,
I'm sitting here just in my glasses, like, okay, because I
is he
had
gonna
one. I'm like,
nosedive?
I'm gonna break, man. I'm gonna break. So if I'm gonna break, damn it, Simon's gonna break with me. I don't know.
No, I'm all right. Like I say, I've learned to rein it in a bit. It took a lot of practice when I got there. But
Yeah, yeah.
for people like you to give someone like me a chance to talk in America is just, it's
Uh,
brilliant. It's just mind blowing, and I'm so grateful.
I am too.
Really am.
I'm grateful. I'm grateful that we had this time to talk, man. I really am. So,
Oh,
brother, you will always be in my heart, and I'm here. You got my email.
yeah, yeah,
Just to say hi. You know,
yeah. I will do. I will do,
and
and vice versa. Yeah,
yeah.
vice versa. Anything I do help you, anybody out there, just let me know. And Mark, I really appreciate it. I genuinely mean that.
Likewise, man. And give your wife my love
I certainly
and
will.
regards, brother.
I will do.
Tell
Thank
her,
you,
tell
Mark.
her, tell her she got a good man.
Thank you very much. Thanks,
Ladies and
Mark.
gentlemen, this has been another episode of the Speak Your Truth with Mark Ross podcast. It's okay to not be okay. Just do something about it.
Yeah.
Brother Simon,
Thanks.
love you,
Thanks,
brother.
Mark. Love you. Speak soon, yeah?
Yes,
Thank you
sir.
very much. God
Yes,
bless.
sir. All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right.